Every story begins with the land, with people who dare to grow, to lead and feed the world. This is the Let's Talk Agriculture podcast, where Africa's voice in food and agribusiness meets the global stage.
There's an assumption that a lot of organizations operate with, and that is once people can see you enough, once you are visible, trust will eventually follow. And to be fair, I wouldn't say that assumption is completely wrong, because visibility matters everywhere. But in many African markets, it doesn't work the way people expect it to. Because, being seen doesn't automatically make people believe you, trust you. Why am I saying this? People recognize names all the time, but it doesn't translate to trust. You can recognize your brand without trusting the brand. They know that this brand exists in our country, but that doesn't mean that they are ready to engage with you. So what usually happens instead is that people ask around, who has worked with these people? What was the experience like? Did they deliver? Those answers, they tend to carry more weight than visibility. So before we go any further, there's one thing we need to separate very, very clearly, if there's something like that. But yeah, you're listening to the Let's Talk Agriculture podcast. My name is Sharon and I am your host. So in this episode, I want to break down what actually makes organizations trusted in African markets. And I'm going to do this in a very practical way, as simple as possible. And I'm going to walk you through 5 ideas that show up again and again in real work. So let's get started with the very first. The first thing I want you to understand is this: recognition and trust, they are not the same thing. Being known does not mean being trusted. Like I said, people recognize brands all the time without feeling confident enough to work with them. And this isn't unique to Africa. Any market where trust isn't automatically guaranteed behaves like this. The difference is that in many African markets, people are more cautious by default. So in this sense, visibility might get you noticed, but it doesn't answer the real question people are asking, which is, can I rely on you? And this takes me right to my second point. Trust is formed relationally, not through messaging. That's my next point. If trust doesn't come automatically from visibility, then the next question is very obvious. How do people actually decide who to trust? Another question for you to sit with. In many African markets, trust doesn't just form. It doesn't form in the abstract, right? It is not based on what your website says. It is not based on how polished your message sounds. Trust is relational. I like to think that people want to, know how you behave with other people before they decide on how to engage with you themselves. People can just quietly be in the corner, observing, watching other people work with, because they want to get full gist. They're afraid of getting burnt, right? So they want to get the full gist from others, and they're quietly watching. But you can actually avoid all of this, and we will get there. So instead of asking what an organization claims, they ask who has actually dealt with them. And those conversations don't happen publicly. So you see those people that are quietly watching other people engage with your brand. They don't come out publicly to start asking questions. They do it quietly. On phone calls, you don't get to monitor people's phone calls, do you? On WhatsApp messages, in passing conversations. Now, someone may ask, have you worked with them before? And what matters is not just yes or no, but how it went. It is not yes or no, I have worked with them, I haven't worked with them. No. How did it go? Did they respond to you on time? Did they keep their word? Did they handle the problems responsibly? Lived experience, that lived experience travels faster than any campaign. So before you focus on spending $1 million in your campaign, make sure that you're actually focusing on the real concerns, the market you operate. So let's get to the third point. Trust is pattern-based, not moment-based. Now, I got to this third point because many times organizations, they already accept that trust is relational. But the problem is that they want it to change quickly. And how do they respond? Campaign, announcement, one really good experience. But the truth is that trust doesn't usually shift because of one moment. Most of the time, trust shifts slowly, because people are watching for patterns. They notice how often you show up. They notice whether your message stays consistent or it keeps changing. They notice whether your standards hold when things are inconvenient. And this doesn't happen consciously. People, like I said, people will not sit down and just start evaluating. They won't sit down and say, they're evaluating this brand. They just notice. And when people start noticing like that, here's what happens. They start forming conclusion about your business. This is what they do. This is how they do it. So what would you prefer? Wouldn't it be great if people form conclusion on your brand the right way, based on lived experience? Good lived experience, by the way. Pattern tells people what to expect from you, and expectation is the foundation of trust. If people can predict how you will behave, they will feel safer working with, they'll feel safer engaging with your brand. And if they can't, they'll take a step back, and once they take a step back, once they hesitate, things can change. Let's go to my fourth point. Inconsistency quietly damages trust, and explanations don't fix it. In many African markets, inconsistency is expensive, right? It's expensive. People will not confront you. Not because they will confront you, right? Not because they will come and complain publicly or bring out placards and start creating a scene in the public. But because they will just quietly adjust how close they are willing to get. They will slow down, they will become very cautious, they will wait and see. And you as an organization, you will definitely sense that. You will know when somebody is adjusting, right? You will know when somebody is being cautious about something, because these are the things you're looking to see. And when you as an organization, you sense that hesitation, you tend to respond the wrong way. You start to explain. You rush to explain. You rush to issue out statements. You start clarifying your intentions. But the truth is that explanations don't rebuild trust. What people are waiting for is change. You see this word change? People talk about it casually. People see it as something, this is a regular word, but this word carries weight. Imagine a scenario where you're stepping your foot, and you're stepping on the foot of someone, and the person is shouting, you're hurting me, and then you're saying, I'm sorry, but your leg is still on that person's So how do you change? You change by removing your legs and stop causing pain to that person. And that is what these markets are expecting, right? Why they are watching for change? They are actually waiting to see, did something shift? Did something improve? Did their behavior improve? Did they hold standards this time? And those things takes time. Rebuilding trust always feels slower than many organizations expect. Now, it's not because people are being unreasonable, but because they are protecting themselves. Like I said, nobody wants to get burned, so they're going to protect themselves from whatever is going to cost them all of that. And to my final point, right? Trust is ultimately a leadership issue, not a communications issue. Now, this is where everything I've been talking about comes together, because if trust is built through patterns, and patterns